Hi there. Thanks for joining us on another edition of Water Finance and Management Conversations. I'm your host, Andrew Farr, Managing Editor of Water Finance and Management. Today, we're going to switch gears for a little bit and talk about a slightly different topic than usual. And we're going to talk a little bit about manufacturing in the waterworks sector. And I'm very excited to welcome Graham Hines, Plant Manager with Mueller. And Graham, you were based in Decatur, Illinois, where you oversee operations at a new Mueller brass foundry. So really excited to talk to you a little bit about that. And maybe we could start right there. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about your role as a plant manager with Mueller. What kinds of products do you oversee the manufacturing operations for? And tell me a little bit about some of the challenges and issues that someone in your role deals with on a regular basis.
Yes, thank you for the time today, Andrew. Love to have a conversation about this. So, as a plant manager, I really oversee all of the operations within the Decatur facility, from manufacturing and supply chain to foundry and machine shop. Within the Decatur, Illinois facility, we build a variety of brass water valves and connections, really 2-inch and smaller specifically, as well as numerous products for the natural gas industry. We also produce a considerable amount of brass castings for our other Mueller operations. So gate valves, fire hydrants, meter setters, we produce a lot of the products that go into those as well. So you ask about manufacturing challenges right now, and I think it's pretty consistent across the board, but supply chain continues to be a struggle for really all manufacturing sites, whether it be subcomponents for our assemblies or actual repair parts for the equipment that we use on a daily basis. Our sourcing team is working very hard to identify multiple sources, but with everybody trying to get the same products for the same types of pieces of equipment, it still becomes still becomes very difficult, but we want to try to create as much flexibility as possible.
You know, Graham, to those of us who work in the water industry, I think everyone's well aware of some of the risks posed by certain materials and chemicals, lead being primary in that regard. But from a manufacturing standpoint, how important is it to manage chemicals and materials in regards to handling my employees and some of the safety measures that you take? Can you talk us through some of that?
Yeah, so being a facility that processes leaded products, there are a lot of precautions that we must take on a daily basis to ensure our employees are as safe as possible. These range from diligently washing our hands as we come off the foundry floor, to showering before employees leave at the end of the day, to various health monitoring that we do throughout the year to ensure that there are no kinds of changes in our employees' health and well-being. While we know our exposure levels are minimal, it's still, we always want to err on the side of caution to ensure employees leave each day the same way that they came in that morning. So they're protecting themselves, their families, and their future with Mueller.
And to follow up on that, as Mueller moves forward with lead-free brass products, what changes do you think that will mean for your facility and your employees?
As our leaded products are phased out, as I mentioned before, all of those safety precautions, a majority of them will no longer be required. We are still a foundry. We still process sand, so silica is always a concern, and we will continue to monitor for that. But with those exposure levels being mitigated through PPE, we also know the best method to eliminate that is to completely remove the hazard from the beginning. So if we're not processing any kind of leaded products, it can't be a health issue for our employees. So safety being the number one for all manufacturing environments, eliminating this hazard just helps ensure that our employees stay as safe as possible while they're at work for Mueller.
And then, Graham, I wanted to kind of round things out by asking you about the benefits to the water utilities themselves. So what benefits can water systems expect from procuring lead-free brass products, as well as the benefits to their customers?
So as companies, ourselves included, begin to focus more and more on sustainability initiatives, the life cycle of all the products that we manufacture as well as use must be looked at. The new alloy that we are moving to is a silicon-based alloy, and therefore it is much more easily recycled at post-life process. So comparing that to the current material, which is very difficult to separate into individual elements. It's also easier for us to produce. So when it comes to melting temperatures, recyclability within the plant itself, those are all improved, requiring less electrical usage on our end to ensure that we are focusing on our environmental footprint and driving it as low as we possibly can.
Very interesting stuff, Graham. And like I said, this is a slightly different topic than what we usually talk about on Water Finance Management Conversations, covering a couple points on the manufacturing side, as I mentioned. And I'm sure we could chat about this a lot longer, but I want to leave it right there. Graham, thanks again for your time today. Thanks for joining us on Water Finance Management Conversations. It's been a pleasure having you.
Thank you for the time, Andrew. Great conversation.
And we'll leave it right there. Thanks for joining us on another edition of Water Finance and Management Conversations. We'll see you next time.
Subscribe to Water Finance and Management's YouTube page and visit waterfm.com for the latest water industry news and insight.